Welcome to Soltron. This is the video review for Metal Cardbot Phoenix Fire. Here's how he scales with all the other Metal Cardbots I have. So I have a lot of these guys at this point. I have most of them. And I would say probably these four here are probably my favorite at this point. He's pretty solidly leader class at this point. I think his design fits in really well with like the old Cybertron Transformers. And here's his box art. And he definitely, if we look at this compared to the actual figure, you can see there's like some pretty major differences. His chest looks more filled out. His torso is definitely bigger in relation to his shoulders. And his shoulders just are better proportioned with the rest of his body. As opposed to the actual figure, you can see these shoulders are gigantic. The legs, I think, look pretty similar in both forms, except for he's got like a knee pad, and this one doesn't, unfortunately. So up to the waist, he's about right, but he's also got these long thighs, so he looks very different from the box art. It's a pretty huge difference. And the instructions is just this newsprint, nothing special there. And then here's a 360 of his body, and you can start to see some of the issues, especially with like the back kibble, with how much just extra garbage there is behind his body. So there's all that plastic and then all this. And they just don't fold away, which would have been like a pretty easy thing to do, is just make this wheel fold back from that part and then this part fold back. So unfortunately he does have like a lot of extra kibble, and then his torso just looks really skinny compared to the rest of his body. His proportions are definitely off, unfortunately. And the head sculpt is very interesting. He's got like a very samurai-esque kind of head sculpt going on, which I enjoy, which I think gives this guy a little bit more style than he would normally have if they were just going for like this firefighter look. And I think the chest kind of gives that segmented armor. And I think if these could have ended up on the side of the arms, they would have made really cool like samurai armor. So I think they missed like a little opportunity there to make him more interesting looking. And then he comes with, of course, his metal card, which has really cool artwork of him that doesn't quite represent the figure. I think if you tried to pose him like that, you definitely get his arms up, but it just, and you can, thankfully he's got like these double jointed knees, so you can get really cool knee articulation where he is kind of like bending back. He just looks too graceful. It just doesn't look like the cover art at all. Yeah, it's a pretty big departure. They look like two different robots. But he does come with a couple of accessories. So the first thing is this huge cannon, which is very cool looking. So that looks pretty intimidating. And you can like transform this cannon to make it a bigger cannon, which is very awesome. And then you can make it an even slightly bigger cannon. So now he's got this huge cannon. Unfortunately, he doesn't have bicep swivel, so he's not going to be able to two-hand this. But yeah, that looks pretty cool by itself. And then he's got, and that just holds on with this long peg. And then he's got like this other accessory, which is less interesting. I think the translucent plastic makes it look very cool, but it's kind of like a hammer, just like a big sledgehammer, which I don't really associate with firefighters. It's weird they didn't make this turn around and just become a giant axe. I'm not sure what the logic was there. It'd make more sense if it pegged in this way. And it uses like this to peg in. So it pegs in here, and then there's like a little notch in his forearm where it holds more securely. So really weird weapon. It would have been nice if this was reversible so it could be an axe too. But yeah, here's the metal card. And then you just transform it by basically folding up the blades, unfolding the sledgehammer. You can see it's kind of a card shape. And then it does an interesting thing where it folds up like this. And now you've made the metal card, and you just peg on the card onto that. And there's the metal card. So it's a pretty cool accessory. It's definitely better than some other ones I've seen. And then, yeah, as far as articulation goes, unlike the other figures, he does only have a swivel neck, which I guess half of them only have swiveling necks, so no ball joint there. So that's a missed opportunity there too. He has very weird shoulders. They go out like one click like this. Well, I guess 2 clicks technically. This would be like the default. So 1, 2 clicks out. So hardly any outward motion. Because of the way they are, they can actually get this weird butterfly, which kind of helps his look, makes him look a little bit more dynamic. So that helps, especially since he doesn't have bicep swivels. So you can get some inward and outward on these butterfly joints. So you can also get some inward. So that helps his look a little bit. You do get full rotation on very nice ratchet joints. So that's his total shoulder articulation. You don't get any bicep swivel. You do get this double jointed elbow, but these wheels get in the way, so you're not going to get any good articulation out of this. It's pretty hard to have him pose, especially with his giant weapons. And then he does have a waist swivel for transformation. It is detented like every 45 degrees. And then as you saw, he's got really excellent knee joints that fold 180 pretty much. And then he's got full outward kick. They always love to do that, even though it's like one of the more useless joints. And then you get a full forward. You could even get a little bit higher than 90. And then a full backwards. No thigh swivel, unfortunately, so that's kind of a missed articulation. Nothing at the feet. So he's kind of low articulation, even by metal Cardbot standards. He's missing like a ball joint neck, bicep swivel, thigh swivel, which some of the other robots have. So he's missing quite a bit in terms of articulation. And then for transformation, he's actually more complicated than he looks. Well, the first thing you can do is you could just collapse his arms. This is actually how they're going to end up. They're going to be like the back bumper. It's very easy to do his legs. You just lift up these panels, push in his toes. And that's his legs pretty much done. And then you're just going to take his heels back here and just push those in. And you get another look at the back of his leg. Like, this panel should have really folded in. And these huge panels too should have done something. But you're just going to sandwich his legs together, of course. And then you're going to use that waist articulation. And you're going to use these double joint knees. Get them all the way back. And he's actually a bit more complicated than he looks, because to get this next part, you have to get this peg into this hole here, which you would think would just go over his head like this, like a normal robot. But no, that doesn't actually work. So you see you missed the peg. You've got to do it like at a 45-degree angle, which really tripped me up for a while. And then everything will peg in where it's supposed to go, and then you just sandwich these shoulders together. And then even then, your vehicle's not quite working. You have to get his waist all the way in there, and then he's got this weird double joint at the waist, which I guess gives him an ab crunch. I'll check that out in a minute. And then you just kind of get this in the best you can. Okay, there it goes. And then he just crunches all together, and then he's all transformed. And then you're going to take this giant cannon, peg it in back here, and then it's going to clip into the little notch at the front there. And there you have this really interesting looking fire truck mode, which is not too bad. Here's how he scales with the semi-truck. So a Voyager, that kind of works. You can see that he's definitely got a little bit more bulk than a Voyager. Yeah, so that's about the end of the review, and I have a couple of extra little things if you're interested. But yeah, it's hard to recommend this figure. He's so basic. His proportions are really off, and then I think this, especially the eyes of this fire truck, they're painted on, yeah, a translucent black plastic. You can see that's translucent, but it's just an ugly look. The eyes should have been like painted on the inside or something. Yeah, I don't know what they were going for. It's not great. He's an okay robot, but he definitely feels like they were figuring things out in this first wave. So it's up to you whether you get this robot or not. I probably couldn't really recommend him at this point. Okay, and one of the things I want to show off is I did update Mega Trucker here. So he does have now rotating forearms because of these Lego joints. So this was a pretty easy fix. It didn't take that long at all. And then I did give him like a little post to put his shield on. So now it can be a shield, or it can be kind of like a spear weapon. Yeah, I guess he could stab people with this or hold it like this way. So it's got a lot of articulation things. And you can just, of course, he could actually use it as a shield now and then tackle people. So I think that turned out pretty nice. And then you can see that's just on this Lego joint, and I just drilled a hole in his forearm. So it's very minimally invasive. And so that works out pretty nicely. And then we can just get his forearms like in to give him a little bit more of an interesting pose. So yeah, pretty easy fix on this guy. All right, and then on Phoenix Fire, he does have that joint here. So I guess you could give him an ab joint, which looks pretty convincing. It's not too bad. Unfortunately, his other articulation is so weird and he can't look up or anything. So it's pretty useless kind of joint. It doesn't really make him look more dynamic or anything. But I think I'm actually going to mod this figure, of course, because I've modded like half the figures in this line. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch out these shoulders so he can actually get more of a samurai look. Okay, so I took off his shoulders. It's going to basically look like this, so that these will become the segmented armor on the side of his shoulders. And then I think that hides his wheels out of the way very nicely. So it's basically going to get this kind of look. So I'm really going to push that samurai look. And then I also want, of course, I'm going to attach his arms so that they're kind of like this, right? So I think that'll be very nice. And then it'll free up his arm articulation. So I have to give him bicep swivels anyway. I might as well just go crazy with it. And then I'm also going to give him a neck joint, a ball joint neck. And then another thing I would like to do is actually get these huge panels here and take them off the back and then maybe put them on his hips, make giant hip skirts. So I'm really just going to push this samurai look. And I think that will just make him more interesting, because right now he's just very generic feeling. So I think it'll be a good idea. I'm really excited to do it, of course. So I'll probably be doing that in the next week. And then I'll have a video of like this random custom. All right, anyway, I'll see you in the next video.